And we are back again. Last week was incredible. Matty and I looked at each other and we're like, how do we just pull off 3 shows in a week?
Herculean.
Yeah, masters focused. We, had a blast doing that. It kind of reminded me a little bit of our focus on the musician week, but this week we're diving back into kind of where the roots of the show began. Talking to entrepreneurs and getting a little bit back into that space. So, Matty, any thoughts leading into the show tonight?
Yeah, who had a more complete 4 days last week, Rom or us? I mean, I don't want to. I'm not trying to get too far out ahead of our skis here, but pretty Herculean to pull off 3 straight podcasts. I don't know too many people doing that.
Well, he took Saturday off for the most part. I didn't see us taking Saturday off. So
no. Well, yeah, we might have, but we didn't take Monday through Wednesday off. So
no, we certainly didn't. We put in the effort. So with all that being said, we are thrilled to be joined by entrepreneur, business owner, Stephanie Greenstein of Thacher and Spring. Steph, thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit, give us a little brief overview of Thacher and Spring, where you got started, and how you got into this entrepreneurship world.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is my first podcast.
So that's incredible.
First of many.
I'm glad I'm in a safe space.
Yep. Yeah, we don't have enough listeners for you to be too worried either way. So yeah, you're good.
You never know. This will live on indefinitely. So
that's true.
Right? No, thank you for having me. Yes, I own a small business called Thacher and Spring. It is a brick and mortar retail location. We have a home decor and gift offering. And then we also have an e-commerce presence, so .com as well. And then we also do interior decorating services. So that's kind of the base of the business. I started it about 2 years ago. I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. I've always kind of dabbled here and there and in my own types of business ventures. I grew up in a family who owns small businesses, so I think it was something that I always wanted to do. But I worked in, corporate America, went to school in Boston, graduated, went right into, a marketing role. And then from there kind of progressed my career for different businesses in different industries, but primarily in marketing. And then I always had this in the back of my mind. And I finally, I think, we'll probably dive deeper into it, but COVID really kind of launched my desire to say, I want to go off on my own. I'm sitting here in this office on Zoom calls all day. For someone who is creative and entrepreneurial, it was really, it was tough. And so I said, you know what, at this point, I'm so kind of unhappy with what I'm doing. And so I feel like I can only go up from here. So I said, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go for it. And I really just went for it. I saw a space. I said, I'm going to take it that day. And then as soon as I kind of had everything ready to go, I gave my notice at work and I have been at the store ever since.
Were you terrified when you gave the notice?
Well, I actually gave my notice and then they gave me a promotion. So it was a wild time. But I will say, and I think this is like a good gauge, is that I was more, I wasn't necessarily terrified, but the guilt that I had for not doing it was surpassing, I had gotten to the point where I said, I will regret if I don't do this. And so I knew that I was at the point where it was like, I want to just do it and try it. And my husband was in support of it. He was kind of like sick of me talking about it. It was like, put your money where your mouth is. And I just felt like, and I still feel this way, I can always get another job. I can always get another marketing job, like whatever. If I have to start a few positions back, fine. But I felt like time was ticking. And so I was scared, but I really wasn't. I think I was just more like anxious and ready to go.
Yeah. So I've known you for about a decade now. And you just said, I can always get a job. And I can attest that you are an elite job getter. Nobody got more jobs than you. It blew my mind because I'm like a half in, half out. Like, I'm kind of like, I wish I could do that, but I'm also like, love the safety. Every time I turned around, you were like, I'm over this job. I'm going to get another one. And you'd get an excellent job immediately. So you
I
had
know.
something figured out.
I feel like I probably jinxed myself. I'll probably never be able to get a job now.
You don't need
No,
one.
no, no.
You don't need one now. No,
You
but
know,
and the other thing that resonates with me that I think of when I think of you is over those 10 years is you always seemed like the type who would do this at some point, even to the point where when you decided you were actually going to do it and you made all those decisions and you were like, I remember we were talking to Christina and me about it, and you were like, I'm doing it. It's over. Like, I'm leaving the job. When you told me you were doing that through COVID, I was like, it didn't even pause for a second. I was like, yeah, she'll find a way. Like, you'll figure it out. Because the commonality between all of the entrepreneurs that we've talked to is that you have this like unnatural faith in yourself, which I think a lot of people have to really work at. So the COVID thing didn't surprise me, but I am interested to hear, like Gibby had asked earlier, what were some of the weird things that you learned? Was it COVID or not, or just weird things that you learned getting the business spun up that you could have never planned for?
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that's important too is that just back to getting all the jobs. I am such a firm. Oh, here comes my ghost dog. I am a.
We're here for all the dogs.
I love it. I love that guy.
The door just opens. You don't see anyone. I feel like because I always wanted to do this, but I do feel like you're meant to be in your life, like where you are at that time. So I don't think I would be successful had I had not had all of those different positions and really absorbed all of that information that I then took and could apply to my business now. So from doing like direct marketing to social media to brand to sales, to all of that stuff, working for small companies, large companies, I feel like I was more confident to start. And then, I think with COVID, for my industry primarily, and I think you see this kind of like in the range in the industry and whether it was like home, like interior design or construction or whatever it was, so many people were sitting in their homes looking around and saying, gosh, like I'm home, like I can't stand looking at this, or I am home, I can take an appointment with the contractor, or I can do this in between calls. So I, in a way, kind of piggybacked off that trend. And for the decorating part, the service part of my business, I had the offerings at the store. So any new business, definitely like a slow grind, getting awareness and traffic in the door. But I think what I was more surprised about was just how quickly my service-based, component of the job took off. And so like, I think I was like 1 month in and I already had 2 clients. So I do think that because of COVID and all of those trends that we saw, that really helped my business. And I don't know that it would have been the same start, kind of comparison had COVID not happened.
So it sounds a lot like you had this formed out, like you were organized, you had looked at everything, social media, you had planned, accordingly. Anything that, you wish, like, oh my gosh, I wish I focused on the service area up front right away, or was there something else that you thought like, oh man, I should have done that?
I honestly, the part that still like scares me, and I guess the setup of the business side. So you have to register with the state and you have to get like, all of these, you have to pay in, you have to set up your taxes, all of that stuff. And I wish I got a bookkeeper sooner, because I did get a bookkeeper, but it wasn't until like almost a year in. So I did a lot of like retroactive stuff. So that was a little tough to untangle that mess. So I think I just would have like wish I set myself up with more of a team on like the back end financial side of things.
Yeah.
I'm definitely an analytical person and I understand that. But when it comes to like the professionals, I mean, of course I have an accountant, but I wish I had started that from day one, not for any sort of like financial planning, but just to give myself more peace of mind and not have so much of a unknown at certain times, even just people to kind of like refer back to. So I think that's kind of like the one, looking back, I think one of the areas I could have set myself up a little bit better.
It feels like it's less about lacking the knowledge, which again is not something that you generally would have an issue with. It's more just you don't know what you don't know. It's the first time you've done this, right? Like you have no way of knowing. So that makes sense. I mean, your current head of HR probably could have done that for you pro bono. But we all make mistakes. It's okay.
She's just not accepting my payment in gum. But if she was,
we're gonna get around to snacks at some point today. So it'll come full circle when we get there.
We are. So backing up a little bit, like, was there a moment, while you were working in one of these other jobs? Matty makes it sound like you have like 50 billion jobs.
I feel like I should clarify. But
none of them bad jobs, though. It wasn't like you were like, fired. I got to get another job. You were like, I'm bored of this one.
Fired,
I'm going to. No, never. And you kept upgrading. So
was there a specific time when you were like, I can do this? Because you had to have been building this up.
Yeah.
And let's back up a little bit, Thacher and Spring. Like, this is home decor. This isn't just, general like, this isn't
home goods.
Here's some pots and pans. Like, we're not going to Home Goods or Dollar Tree.
No, you're getting that look, the touch.
If Home Goods or Dollar Tree wants to be a sponsor, fine. But this is fantastic. Really elegant pieces here that I'm looking at, and I'm blocking my wife from adding all these.
I'll send it to her. I'll make sure she gets a direct line in.
You must have been doing this behind the scenes a little bit and getting ready to get to this launch. And what was that moment like when you're like, okay, it's time, or this is building up to this point?
Yeah. So it's interesting too. So I always think that I have a kind of like two approaches on this. I think that to do something well, you need to be all in. And to your point, like I was kind of with all of my jobs because I just knew like as much as I was good at them, I just knew I wanted to be doing something else. So I was kind of always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And for the people who've been around for a while, I had this business called Steffi Chic, which was an online. So I had my own e-commerce website that I sold accessories, I made jewelry. So that had existed, and that I then kind of like transformed. I basically like piggybacked off of that. Yeah. Like I started a new website and everything, but that was kind of like always on. So the thing about that, and this is where I kind of go back and forth, is I feel like I had learned so much from that. Like I knew how to run Shopify, did email marketing, built social media, did pop-ups, learned a POS. And I think the less I had to learn going into this like more serious venture was a better starting point. And so by having that, I was kind of like always doing that in the background. But then I basically just like made the switch, and I said, I knew I didn't want to do that. I couldn't necessarily make that big enough in my mind. And my husband and I bought a house, and that's when it turned into kind of, okay, I know I want to do the home decor and focus on that. So I had been doing that, for years prior. And then when it was basically January of 2021, where I was working from home, in the middle of COVID, 2021. And I started like, okay, I want to do this. So I started looking at spaces. I started like I made an Instagram account. I don't know, like changed the name of my business from Steffi Chic to Thacher and Spring. And so I started to do some work. And then because a lot of the buying for my type of business happens at these large trade show type events, they're called market. But because of COVID, everything was virtual. So I was able to do a lot of research online. And so I didn't go to any markets because they weren't, they weren't available, but I was able to do that. And again, kind of like, do that in between meetings or before I wasn't commuting. So I was able to kind of prep in that sense. And then really when I found my location and I signed the lease, that's when things like really turned and I started ordering and started getting the, physical products and inventory into my warehouse, which was my garage.
Yes.
Like any good entrepreneur.
The common thread there, though, I know I went back to it earlier, but I'll go back to it again, is like that entire time when you were doing things other than what you wanted to be doing, full in, both feet in, like all in, you were learning, you were picking up skills.
Yeah.
The jobs you did have helped you with the social media
Right.
aspect of your business, and
Totally.
Steffi Chic, which,
Yeah.
a beautiful brand that I remember very well, helped you figure out a little bit of the business stuff. So I feel like
Yeah.
you were just always preparing for it. Whereas I think a lot of people, I can't speak to this either way, but entrepreneurs are sort of like, one day I'll just start it and figure it out.
Yeah.
I think you do have to do a whole lot on that runway before you physically get up in the air. So
Yeah.
I've always noticed that, which is why when you said you were doing it, I was like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Like it jives.
Yeah. And I'm also very like risk adverse. So for me, like I like to be as secure as possible and eliminate as much as I can from doubt, variables, whatever. So I think there's something to be said for people who go all in that entrepreneur, where they're building a product, right? And manufacturing and all of that. But for me, I did a lot of like testing, I think. And I think financially, like I was never at a point where I could just quit my job and just spend all this money that I didn't have to start a business. So I think it depends on the person, but that, if there's a path that someone has that's similar to mine, I would say that it is beneficial to kind of be patient and to build things out because you can learn from it. And then when you're ready to go, there's less of a learning curve.
When you get better and better, right? Like, your products get better, your delivery, your messaging, social media. I'm curious a little bit about like, so you're kind of working in three different worlds, right? You've got like your retail space, your, and I just like your brick and mortar online space, and then your services that you offer to outfit someone, needs a brand new living room. Like, I hate my living room. I've got the 70s couch there. I've got the 90s, curtains. Like, I need your help. So is there one specific area that like you've been drawn to, or does it all marry together? Like what of those three sort of aspects of the business like has drawn the most interest to you personally and also professionally too?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The e-commerce side is, we can almost take that out of the equation. I have that and it's a nice to have, but it's like 10% of my business.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because I don't have like the fulfillment side of things is so time consuming. It's expensive. I'm shipping heavy breakable items. It's expensive to ship. It's time consuming. So I've kind of put that on autopilot and, I get orders, but I don't do any digital marketing around it. So I don't try to ramp that side up. So then the brick and mortar side, I think I'm knock on wood, just lucky the location that I'm in. I think the style and kind of like my offerings match very well with where I'm at in Massachusetts, the community, et cetera. And then the service side, I do love doing, and I think it's almost like the store is kind of like the lead gen for that. Or, I mean, social media is too, but it's great because people will come in and the store has, like all of the decor and it's styled how we would style it. And it's a very distinct, like we stay very specific to what our style is. So a lot of times it comes up naturally in conversation with customers. Like, we do offer the service where we can come to you. And basically people get very just kind of flustered with all of the choices. And they're like, if I bring this home and it doesn't work or the size isn't right.
Indecision.
And Matt's a customer. He knows from his bookshelves. So
got a real nice bookshelf.
So it's helpful. So I think from a passion side, I do love doing that. And I do like the retail side. And I mentioned this briefly to Matt, just every store is different, but I feel like I couldn't survive without that kind of like 3-pillar approach. Like
Mhm.
I definitely need the
Yeah.
e-commerce, I definitely need the brick and mortar, and I definitely think I need the service side if I want to continue to do this. I feel like they intertwine, but I also feel like they build off each other, and I don't know how profitable I'd be if I took one out. Even though the e-commerce is small, it's still an offering. Um,
And I feel
so
like is the e-commerce, and this might be a yes, I can't remember. You basically like you said, it's 10%, but you're mostly just shipping things that are a little bit smaller, not as fragile, like a little bit easier for you to get out. Is that kind of what you've decided to do?
yeah, I mean, it's tough. Honestly, it's another thing I have to look at, just like
Yeah.
the shipping strategy, and like there's a whole back end side of it that I kind of just set up when I started. But
Yeah.
that's also changed a lot from COVID too, just the shipping side of things. But I do put some notes like on our product pages. We, unfortunately can't ship this item, it's for pickup only.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, we do ship, like we'll ship pillows and large bowls and vases, and
Reasonable.
we do our best, and it's expensive, but it's part of, it's part of that world. So
Opens up another channel. Were you
yeah.
I think you were telling me earlier, you also have a spot in the store that people can come to that's sort of like a styling wall. Did I make that up? Like a place where they can come in and they can kind of get an idea of what it might
Oh,
look like if they did something like that and you came to the home and consulted?
yeah. So we actually, when I set the store up, I have shelves all around.
Hmm.
And then we do have like console tables, which we kind of show people how you would style. And then I also put a mantle in the store, because a
Hmm.
mantle is like usually a focal point for decorating, whether it's holidays or not. So
Yeah.
it is nice because I mean, I get in there with customers. Like I'll just rip the store apart and I'll show them, but it's so visual, and that really helps. So I think, I mean, if I had a bigger space, I would do more, but it's, I'm working with 500 square feet. So
Yeah. Once we
but
get you some more square feet, because you will obviously grow, I'm thinking we get a small little corner of the store that has a bunch of TVs set up on the wall that can change the look and color of the background so that you can make it as real as someone's home. And then you can kind of do a little bit of both. You could clone yourself, have somebody at the store. That's almost like an in-home consult. And then you're out doing the big in-home
sure.
consult. So
That's,
just
yeah,
just an idea. Put it in the ideas folder. We'll get
yeah,
back around to it.
yeah.
Matt's
We'll flip
increased
through
your
it.
overhead by
Yeah.
1,000%. But
100% minimum. Yeah. Yeah.
go for it.
I like it. It's
We're
different.
scaling lightning fast. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's all.
this is
Well, I
great.
mean, by the time
Worth it
all the
all.
listeners get their hands on this and head to Main Street and hang them, it's time. So a couple other questions I had for you too, around
Yeah.
like when you're going to someone's house, are they freaking out? Are they like cleaning? Are they, I'm curious. Any stories? Anything that you don't have to name names or
Yeah.
addresses?
Not really, but I'm trying to think. I don't think so. I mean, people definitely like apologize, and I'm always like, I've
Yeah.
seen it all. But I'm
Yeah.
also like, I'm also there, and it's like, the cleaning. There's a cleaning person there, or like there's someone doing like yard work. I had this one customer, and they were having I think something done on like the siding. So a handyman had like a bench set up, and when I come to the house, and Matt can attest to this, I
Uh-huh.
bring so much stuff.
So much.
Like I like it's such a workout. So like this one place, I had to like go around this guy's stuff, and I was like, oh, like what time are you gonna be here till? Because it was like an extra. I mean, it was fine, but you kind of just never know. And then there's people who are like, oh, like I have dogs. I'm sorry. I'm like, leave your dogs. It's fine. I love
Yeah.
them.
Love them. Love them.
But nothing really.
Okay.
Nothing.
I'm sure the apologies are,
Yeah, and
nonstop.
I honestly, I think it's one of those things like you're just not even concentrating on it. Like I can imagine it's like you go to the dentist and you like look like crap, and
Yeah.
it's like dentist like I'm looking at your mouth, so
Right.
I feel like I'm just focused and I don't really pay attention to anything else. So
You're more worried about, because I saw you live and I got a chance to experience this when you came over to our house. You're more just like, it's your painting. You're like, okay, just let me lock in and focus on this. And I'm going to put together, it's like a puzzle for you. Cause I was watching you put items that previously to me belonged in every place, but these places. But then I walk away, I come back, I take a look and I'm like, that looks a lot better, much, much better than it did. So I get it, but you probably just want the guys out of there during that process. We don't know.
You know, some have great opinions, but like you said, like I lock in and I'm not someone who can like multitask. So I do sometimes feel a little distracted. But I tell people because I kind of plan things out beforehand, but then you get there and things are changed around or you see like a different part of the room. And so I go with what I've had in my head and kind of planned, but things change. So I usually just tell people, you know, I'll shoot you a text or holler if you're upstairs. It'll be like an hour or so. Then they come down. And that also like, you know, the thing with the service is usually people are having me in because they don't know what to do. You know, I don't say that in a rude way, but they really need help. So by them trying to guide, we're kind of like, we're wasting everyone's time. So it's exciting to have a reveal and they can, of course, you know, give their point of view. And I tell them, if you don't like something, let me know. But also they're hiring someone, they shouldn't have to make any decisions. They shouldn't have to figure things out. Like that's on me. So it's definitely best if I kind of do my thing, like Matt said, it's like a puzzle and then, and then surprise them and hopefully they love it.
What's the process from start to finish when like you go in, you look, you go back, you know, figure out all the pieces and then the reveal, like, and it sounds like for a lot of them, they're being sent away upstairs, they're going out of the house, blindfold, come inside, like, you know, move the truck. But like, how long does that take and what does that look like for your customers when they come back and the excitement?
Yeah, so normally I go for like a walkthrough where I go to the site first and that's where they say like, okay, this is the focus. And then it kind of drifts room to room. If you have something for this space, I don't love this. So I get a lay of the land and then, you know, we find a date that works. I do stuff on my side and kind of like a document to spec everything out. And then I pack everything. I, you know, go to the location and then I, you know, start in one space and kind of work through. And then I have a lot of options. So I usually tell them, okay, like, let's walk through everything. And that's when they see it. You know, for the most part, I've never really, knock on wood, had anyone I've never had anyone who's like, I hate this, or I don't like anything or anything like that. Usually like my, I wish I knew like a good like sports gaming term here, but like my ratio is,
your batting average?
Yeah, maybe like my batting average.
Yeah, Gibby would have gone with completion percentage as well. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So people are like, I love it. And don't really want to change anything. And then sometimes, which is totally fine. And sometimes it gets to maybe an even better place, but people are like, you know, I don't love that vase or whatever. And then we just work through it and I've got the options. So I show them and sometimes I show them the options and then they're like, oh yeah, you're right. This doesn't look as good. And so depending on how many spaces there are, I can be at someone's house for like a couple of hours. I did like a big holiday for like a bigger home, a big holiday refresh session. So I was there for probably 5 or 6 hours. But the point of the refresh session is that I'm in and out in a day and your space can be transformed and you're just kind of left in this like, you know, lovely space that feels like new when you haven't done anything on your side. So yeah, that's usually the process and it's usually pretty quick.
We need to get some reaction videos out there.
I know. I do a lot of.
I love the reactions.
The wows. Yeah, no, you'll get people. The trick is it has to be like almost like half hidden camera so we can get that authentic reaction. We'll workshop. That's another good idea. Put that one in the folder. We got 2 now. 2 in 35 minutes. That's not bad.
Sorry, Steph. These are the last 2 guys that you need.
No, I love it. It's great.
I've been giving Steph bad advice for years. She's not going to be phased. She knows how to filter it.
I don't know about that. I think pretty good advice.
Oh, thank you.
So, Steph,
Yeah.
This is, business that is starting to grow and expand, and you just started 2 years ago. So it always seems a little bit disingenuous on my end to ask you, like, what's next, right?
Yeah.
Because you're establishing the business and building up those 3 pillars even taller. But so with that said, what's next? Like, where do you want to, go into, or what are your plans going forward in the next year or two?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think I actually have to stop asking myself that, because I'm very competitive with myself. I'm very, like, I'm trying to live in the moment and be grateful for what I've done thus far, and just being able to do this. So with that being said, what's next? I would love, I mean, I have a lot of ideas. Like, my space is very small, so I would love maybe another location. I'd love like a summer pop-up location. I'd love to work with or hire an interior designer and work hand in hand with them. So I don't know. I would love to grow my
the
e-commerce
empire.
business and have like a warehouse and blow that up. So those are kind of like all eventually, I guess. But I think for right now, I definitely I'm I'm kind of back to that team. I'm kind of like building a team. So just having like the right employees, having someone help me with the fulfillment side. I think I can't really go any further without having the actual resources being humans. So I'm trying to kind of balance that and feel good about things before I kind of add something else onto my plate. So I would say that that's probably what's next, is just kind of adding people to the squad.
You're at the classic Shark Tank inflection point. You now have demand and you need a whole lot of space and inventory. That's a good place. That's a good problem.
It is. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's so true. Like, the more business you have, like the more inventory you have to have. The more inventory you have, the more ordering you do, the more fulfillment you do, the more unpacking you do, the more trash you have to get rid of. Like everything just increases. And so while it's great, I try to remind myself of that. Like, I mean, things you don't think of, like I didn't think I would go to the dump like 5 times a week for trash removal. Like didn't think of it, but like makes sense. So, it's everything, I think, with time and just kind of being patient with.
So
where I'm at.
One question that we ask most of our first time guests, first time podcast guests, on your way to the dump, you're a little bit hungry.
Snack.
You need a snack. You need something before you get, dinner's not for 3 hours. And you might as well pump up, get some gas, but you got to stop in the mobile mart. So what is your go-to gas station snack? And anything that's in there is available to you.
MP and I have had a lot of gas
done a
stations.
lot of snacking.
Remember the 7-Eleven in Southgate with the dogs?
Yep, I do. And then we had the 7-Eleven in the North End. I mean, we had so many special 7-Elevens.
Yeah. So okay, I would say like I think maybe tried and true, like the roots of who I am would be Cheetos. And Hostess.
Wait, the fluffy ones or the crunchy?
The skinny crunchy Cheetos.
Yeah, okay. Christina's in the opposite boat.
I know.
Yeah.
We differ in something.
I know.
Yeah. And Hostess cupcakes are like a gas station staple. I know.
Which flavor? Which type? We were just looking at some the other day. I was had my eyes on a couple. Yeah.
The chocolate, just the standard chocolate with the
white little squiggly line.
You know what I noticed when I was in the gas station the other day and I saw them? They haven't changed the packaging at all. It doesn't need to be changed. You know what else hasn't changed is and I can't believe we haven't gotten this answer yet, Gibby, the honey buns with the frosting on top that are next to those and the donuts.
Like the yodels.
Bunny bones. People don't give enough respect.
A brand that's just transcended the years here. But those are my snacks. But I think I've changed over the years, but like those were big time back in the day.
You got a sweet and a savory there, which is nice. I'm glad you did that. A lot of people just give us 2 sweets or 2 savories, and that's gluttonous. That's not, there's
And
no style there.
sometimes, as you know, I used to have a snack before the snack, like
Of
a
course,
snack
yeah,
away
yeah,
the
yeah,
snack.
yeah.
And that would be like peanut butter and crackers.
Well, on that note, actually, I'm sure you saw this. So one of the places we used to go get snacks at all hours, Bova's, is closing, or I think they just did close for like a day to shoot that Matt Damon, Ben Affleck movie. And they
Yeah.
haven't closed in like 90 years for even a minute.
Nothing. Funerals, Christmas, nothing. Yeah.
Did you do some snacks to commemorate and to celebrate them? Just in general, just knowing it was happening, were you like, oh, I should do something for Bova's and have like 4 or 5 rice balls?
I didn't, but I did go to Bova's. So I have my eye doctor still in the North End. I just have never changed it. And it's like once a year. So I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was for some holiday. Oh no, it wasn't. It was in August, and Matt's family was coming in from Pennsylvania. So naturally I went to Bova's. And I don't know if I feel like I maybe told you this. I definitely told Christina. I spent like $55. Like I just,
Oh, I love that.
I don't know how it happened. I just bought like
I know how. I know
and
how.
I was like,
If
oh,
you
that
get
seems like
if you get a couple lobster rolls and a bunch of those cookies, and then you leave a
cannolis, yeah,
cannoli or two, and then maybe you leave with a slice of pizza to just for the walk back
for
to
the
the
walk.
Warm up
apartment.
slice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
warm up slice. You're gonna
Yeah.
touch 50 pretty quick, and it was all worth it every dollar.
Yeah. So I did that, and then Matt was like, well, that's a lot. And you know, people had like a half of a cannoli, and then I just basically ate the rest over a week.
It's a skill to be able to snack as aggressively as we do. Bengo can't hang. He knows that. He's aware of that.
Oh, I
He
know.
knows.
He went through a phase, but he's back to just
Yeah,
he like
it's okay.
set the sugar on everything. It's just Debbie Downer.
It's a path that not everybody can choose, and we don't wear that lightly. So it's on us. It's an honor.
Yeah.
So Steph, before we sign off for tonight, thank you. First and foremost, thank you for joining us. You've been an absolute pleasure to have on. We really enjoy talking to people that, you know, have the resiliency, the ideas, and are able to build up, you know, something just that's living in their mind somewhere that they've worked hard at, and then, you know, be able to apply it and see people have success and you know, on the brink of greatness. So excited for that. But where can our tens of listeners find you?
Yes. So thatcherandspring.com. So that's our website. You can follow us at Thacher and Spring on Instagram. And then if you are in Massachusetts, or if you're ever in, you know, in Massachusetts, like south of Boston, we're in Hingham, and you can visit our store at 288 Main Street.
Awesome. We'll post it all. Gibby's our social media maven. He's going to drop links everywhere, places all over the place.
I would call it a maven. But Steph, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And
thank you guys.
And listeners, go visit Thacher and Spring. Get down to Hingham. And shout out to Stephanie. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good night, man.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. See you, bud.
Bye.